I'm really thrilled to be here tonight talking to you about the epic rides of Australia. And this particular image here is taken on the sea, the Kosciuszko to sea, somewhere on the snowy Valley Way. It's just magic, big country, big skies, and I love this image because it just puts me back on that trail. So let's start on these epic rides, but a bit about myself. I've been with the World Expeditions Travel Group, and Australian Cycle Tours is part of the World Expeditions Travel Group for too long, actually, over 30 years this year. So that's just crazy. And I started off leading cycling trips in China. And so cycling is my passion, and whenever I can, I love to get on the bike, whether that's in Sydney, uh, just to, do some cycling around Sydney. And I can assure you, Sydney's not that cycle friendly unless you go out west. And I love getting out and cycle touring as well. And I'm not talking about lycra-clad sort of long distance cycling routes. I like probably the sweet spot is about 50, 60, maybe up to 100 kilometers in a day, but sitting around the 80, 60 to 80 kilometers is a really good time spent on the saddle for one day. So I've been involved with Australian Cycle Tours since its inception. We started the brand before the pandemic. We started the research, and then we worked very hard during the pandemic to bring these amazing trips to life. And one of the first ones was our cycle trip from Kosci to the sea, but also some other amazing ones down on the Victorian Rail Trails and others. So I've been involved in researching these trips, getting out there in the saddle. Often you'll see I've got big panniers. That's because we just carry our own gear and do it that way, the hard way. Fortunately, on an Australian Cycle Tours trip, we take care of all of those logistics. So you won't be ending up on some of the back roads that I've been on, following Google Maps through paths that maybe were there a century ago but have long since been overrun by um, paddocks and things. It's just crazy, some of the trails that I've done. So all of those research trips have ensured that our travelers don't follow those same routes. So don't think that Google Maps is going to get you from A to B all the time, because sometimes you might be finding yourself on a very rough, non-cycling type trail. But most of my journeys have been just fantastic, and so I'm really excited to share a few of those with you this evening. So why would you choose to go with Australian Cycle Tours? I think there's a lot to be said about that research that we've put in. Our team is also very knowledgeable. It's run by Erin Williams, who's shown in this image here on the Murray Mountains, which she did with her kids. We handle all those logistics, so you don't have to carry your luggage with you. You can just take what you need for the day. Your luggage is transferred between accommodation. We include all the accommodation at great places, and some of the trips that we do, it's very hard to find good cycle-friendly accommodation. So we've scouted out and found those really treasures, those ones that really look after our cyclists. We've got a good range of trips. Now, we've come from a very strong background of cycling holidays in Europe through our U-Trax brand. And so we know those trails so well in Europe and how well they're serviced. It's quite different in Australia. The infrastructure is not as strong here, except on some of the rail trails. It's been really good, but there's a lot of places where we've had to put together a range of logistics and pioneer routes, which I'm going to show you a few of today as well. So I guess we can provide expert advice in all of the levels of your contact with us from the moment that you first reach out to inquire about a booking on a trip to actually booking the trip. And then while you're on the trip, we're there at the end of the line to assist you if you need any help. So we also have a navigational app for all of our trips, which is our own Pathfinders app, and it's a brilliant way to navigate as you go. Makes it so much easier than the old days of having to look at maps as you went or rely on road signs, which are often non-existent for long stretches of roads that we travel along. So yeah, a lot of good reasons why traveling with U-Tracks is a great option when you're considering a cycle trip in Australia. So the epic rides tonight, I'm going to talk about, but the things that I'm going to focus on are the accommodation, the food, wine, of course, or breweries, what grading the trips are, whether the terrain's good for different types of bikes, for example, training and when to go, what we include on our cycle trips, the gear that you should consider, and then I'll also have some questions and answers. Hopefully, I'll give you the answers to all your questions at the end of the presentation. So let's just start off with some gear. And if you're a gear nerd like me, then this is always a very exciting part of the presentation. Phone mounts and portable batteries. So you can get a phone mount, and we do ask that you bring your own phone mount because then it's suited to your actual phone. You can get these through Amazon quite cheaply. The first two are examples of phone mounts that I've used in the past, both of which work pretty good. But the standout phone mount for me is the quad lock, but it is an expensive investment. So only consider that if you're planning to continue your cycling at home or at other stages as well, because they really are fantastic at keeping a stable mount on your bike. And because you're using a navigational app, it's really important that you bring a portable battery so that if you lose battery, I mean, you can plug it into that and continue on. And that's important for the use of the navigational app, which doesn't use data, but it does chew up some of the battery. And we recommend that you do put it on airplane mode while you're cycling and relying on it just to reduce that charge on your battery. So in terms of gear that you might need, I always wear bright colored clothes. I always have a buff that protects you from the sun, which we have an issue with in Australia quite a lot. And sunglasses are really important. Flying insects can't get into your eyes if you're wearing sunglasses, so that's good. And I often put a visor underneath my helmet, which again provides me just with a bit of extra relief from the sun if required. Now, most of our programs do include bikes, and with the bikes, you will get a helmet because, of course, helmets are compulsory in Australia when you're cycling. Footwear is very simple, either a shoe or if you're going to be using SPD pedals, then you can bring along your own shoes with cleats. So if you do bring your pedals along with you, bring the tools to be able to remove our pedals from our bikes and put these pedals on. I think it goes without saying having a comfortable seat as you're cycling is really important. And I think you can do that in two ways, one or both. You can have shorts that have the padding in it, like special bike shorts, or you can get a gel seat cover as well. Again, these type of things can be purchased at your local cycle shop, or you can get them from Amazon. Our bike seats are pretty comfortable as well. This is only if you need that extra bit of padding. I do recommend wearing gloves, cycle gloves, because they just give you that extra bit of grip on the handlebars, particularly if it's hot. And also they protect your hands from the sun. I think that's also important. And also, when you're looking at the type of clothes you wear on the upper layer, having layers is really, really important. A synthetic or merino base layer, a warmer layer, and of course, waterproofs on the top of that. Always carrying a waterproof jacket when you're cycling, I think that's very important. So with the bike, you get a pannier, and usually it's waterproof, but if not, just bring some bags to put your stuff in before you put them in the pannier. We do give you a repair kit, which includes a pump. You will be required to fix any punctures that you might have while on the trail. But of course, if anything's more serious, then we will be able to assist you with that, of course. And we do provide you with a helmet, as I mentioned. So the bikes range depending on the trip. We have a big range of different styles of e-bikes that are fit for purpose, but also we've got regular bikes and gravel bikes if it's a trail that requires it, like Brisbane Valley Rail Trail. It's good to have a mountain or gravel bike on because of the type of surfacing. Um, and there is one trip that we don't provide a bike with, and we do offer bike hire, but it's not included in the price. It's super expensive to hire a bike. So this is a trip that you would need to bring your own bike along to. And I'll talk about that in a bit. So luggage transfers, accommodation, just finding those really great gems that are along the trail that are easy to get to, and then an app for navigation. Your emergency support is always there. We've always got people on standby to take your calls if you have a problem on the trip. So whereabouts are our trips? Besides our epic rides, we've got lots of trips. We'll start with the west, where we've got the Mundabidi cycle, and that's a guided trip. And we have a few different departures of that every year. And we've just had a group back last week, and they had an epic ride, actually. They had an amazing trip, and it is one of the great trails of Australia. In South Australia, we have programs along the Barossa and Clare Valleys in the wine regions. Down in the base of Victoria, we've got the Great Ocean Road. We've got the rail trails in Victoria, including the Gippsland, the Murray Mountains, and the Great Victorian Rail Trail. Up in New South Wales, we've got some lovely cycle trips along the south coast between Sydney and Jervis Bay, and that's some of the most magic coastline you'll ever get in Australia, I reckon. Further west, central west cycle, we've got Capertee, and then up in the north of New South Wales, the Northern Rivers Rail Trail, which is making a lot of progress in becoming one of the biggest, one of the longest rail trails in Australia, and one of the most epic as well. And then further into the north, we've got the Brisbane Valley and Kilkevin rail trails, which are very, very popular. But let's start with the Great Ocean Road cycle, which was one of the trips that I researched in recent years, and it definitely qualifies as an epic cycle. It takes you from country Victoria all the way along the Great Ocean Road, and it really does showcase this amazing road. It has nature, it has the ocean, it has some of the most iconic sites in Australia on this one trip. So where does it start? It starts in Camperdown, which is about 2.5 hours by train from Melbourne. A very easy trip. And then from Camperdown, you join a rail trail all the way to Port Campbell. And this is where we start on the Great Ocean Road, which we follow all the way through to Lorne and a little bit beyond. So you can reach the end of the Great Ocean Road and see this iconic Great Ocean Road sign. So that's where we actually officially end the cycle trip. So Camperdown is a really lovely town. It's got a volcanic sort of landscape around it. So there's some really good hills that you can go up and explore, and some reservoirs that you can cycle past as well. So a night in Camperdown is a must. It's got some old worldly pubs and a great atmosphere. So from Camperdown, you take the first rail trail and it goes all the way to Timboon. And at Timboon, um, just fantastic. You get there probably about mid-morning and you get to go to the Timboon ice cream factory, which has the best ice cream. And it is available all around Victoria and South Australia. It hasn't made its way to New South Wales yet, but it is super, super ice cream. It also has a distillery there, and it's got a kind of quaint atmosphere in Timboon itself. And from Timboon, you then follow what used to be called the 12 Apostles Way. It is now called, and it's an Indigenous name, the Purpa Yanyin Miring Trail. And that's something that I've got to learn to remember because I'm pretty bad at it at the moment. But it is very important, obviously, to the Indigenous community, and it is a great trail that's only recently opened, and the surfacing is fabulous. And at the end, you arrive in Port Campbell, which is your first point on the Great Ocean Road. Here you've got a couple of nights, which is great because you get to see some magical sunsets. If you've got time, there's some really nice walks to do on the headland there. And it's also got a very laid back coastal vibe about it. And you can go to the beach, obviously, and enjoy the coastal scenery and the seafood as well. So from Port Campbell, I suggest getting up early the next morning and starting out. We started out about 7, and when we did this, it was the peak tourist season. It was January, and so when we started cycling out, there was no cars on the Great Ocean Road at all, and it was really great to cycle. But you've got to pick your time on the Great Ocean Road because it can get busy. But wow, amazing time to get to the 12 Apostles, because most of the people that visit the 12 Apostles come on day trips from Melbourne, and the day trips begin first thing in the morning, but they're coming the other way along the Great Ocean Road. And by the time they get to here, it's mid to late morning, and so the lighting is not nearly as good as what you'll see when you get there first thing in the morning. And this is only 12 kilometres from Port Campbell, so you're there within an hour, and you've got fabulous light, and we literally had the place to ourselves. All those boardwalks to view the 12 Apostles, we had them all to ourselves. And then you head on up to Lavers Hill, where there's a great cafe and you can stop there and have some lunch. Then we pick you up, take you back to Port Campbell. And the next day we take you back up to Lavers Hill and you continue your cycle down to Apollo Bay. Now, a lot of people ask about the road cycling conditions on the Great Ocean Road because it isn't a dedicated cycle path at all. It's only a small verge. So you do need to be comfortable with cycling along a road like this. But we specifically have designed this trip so that you're cycling against the traffic. So most of the traffic is coming towards you and not with you. So a lot of there's not as much passing traffic. It also has a speed limit of 80 kilometres an hour, and a lot of the time in the Bends area is only 60 kilometres an hour. And most people are taking it slowly because this is one of the great drives of the world, cycling along this coastline. So they're taking in the views as they go. For me, I never felt unsafe while I was cycling along. I wore bright colours. As I said, we started out early, and we really enjoyed the experience of cycling here because, like drivers, in cars, we got to experience this view, and we could stop pretty much wherever we wanted. And right along that road, the section of the route between Port Campbell and Lorne, there's some great stops to see waterfalls on the way, and it is a really stunning route. We also stopped at a koala cafe and saw koalas up in the trees. So very, very special. And the nature is the part of this trip that you really just come away with, that the beautiful ocean is amazing, but also the waterfalls are incredible. The redwoods, which you go past after you've hit Lavers Hill, the old beachy rail trail, which you cycle a bit on, that goes through this magical rainforest, which was just heaven to cycle through. So there's so much more than that to the cycle route. Now on the way you have accommodation in very comfortable hotels, motels, and on the last couple of nights you have 2 nights at the Mantra in Lorne, which is a very nice hotel right on the beach there. The food scene along the Great Ocean Road is very strong. There's chocolate places, there's cheese places, there's seafood is amazing. The scallop pies in Apollo Bay were just to die for. So really, they take pride in their food, like you would expect along this very important stretch of land. And they've got some great beaches as well that you can go swimming. So that's the Great Ocean Road cycle trip. The next one is the Great Victorian Rail Trail, which was used to be that longest rail trail in Australia, but it was sort of gazumped by the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail. So now it is the longest in Victoria. So this takes you between Mansfield and Tallarook, and Mansfield's right up near the snow country, and then Tallarook's about an hour from Melbourne. So you've got some beautiful landscapes in between. It's a lot of farming communities, but some interesting towns as well. So I just wanted to let you know that unfortunately, this trail is currently closed because of the fires that were devastating, and they swept through the region in January 2026, or early this year, and have knocked out the section between Merton and Cheviot, including Alexandra. But we're hoping that by next year, it doesn't look like it's going to be reopened this year, but it's still not been confirmed to us. But hopefully, there's a lot of cycle infrastructure, that there's bridges and boardwalks and things that are on this trail that need to be repaired. So a big job for the councils. But I did want to still talk about this trip because it's such a beautiful one. As I mentioned, it starts in Mansfield, beautiful town near the base of the Snowy Mountains. And then the first day is an easy 20 Ks to Bonnie Doon. Many of you might know Bonnie Doon as the place where Serenity was, where the great Australian movie, The Castle, had a section of it filmed in Bonnie Doon. From then, you cycle all the way to Alexandra, which is again a beautiful place, great hotel, excellent food. And then from Alexandra to Yea, again, gorgeous hotel, excellent bakery. And then from there to Tallarook, which is a great place to just then be able to get on the train and continue on your travels. So luggage transfers included. Otherwise, we do transfer you back to Mansfield as well. And here we stay in really beautiful hotels, and accommodation is just lovely. All the hosts are very proud of their food and their lovely rooms, and it's very comfortable. So here's the Serenity House, in case you haven't seen it. It's on the foreshore near Bonnie Doon, and the start of the trail in Mansfield. Along the way, the route is really, it's a smooth sort of trail surface, and it really is a comfortable ride, very doable. And we grade this as an introductory to moderate cycle, and it's done over 4 days. So this is us cycling across the bridge at Bonnie Doon. And we saw lots of wildlife on the way as well as beautiful farmland, and there was wetlands. It was a really great cycle. And this one you can do between about October and March. Otherwise, it gets a bit cold and snowy at times. So it's a very good trip to do in the autumn, spring, and summer, which is when we did it. It was very hot when we did it, but if you start out early, it's fine. There's a lot of shaded sections on the trail. The next epic was a real favourite of mine. That was from the top of Mount Kosciuszko all the way to Tathra and the coast. And the reason I think this is an epic ride is because you're going from the highest point in Australia down to the lowest point, which is really a great achievement. We do offer it going from the sea up to Kosci, but surprisingly or not, most people decide to go the other way. It is very much achievable, but it's also got a lot of hills. And it really, when I did this, I was on a regular bike, and it made me go out and purchase an e-bike after this because there was a lot of big hills, Mount Myrtle and such that really were quite hard on the legs, that's for sure. And particularly since I was researching, I was carrying all my own stuff. Fortunately, you don't have to do that, so it's much easier. And if you've got a nice road bike, it's probably the best bike for this trip because you do need to bring your own bike with you. So you start off in Jindabyne, and then the next day we transfer you up to either Thredbo or Charlotte's Pass, depending on where you want to conquer Kosci from. And from there you cycle back either from Thredbo on the Thredbo Valley mountain bike track, and then on the road to Jindabyne, and then you continue along the route all the way through some magic country, the Snowies, and then to the coast. And it really is just a fabulous trip. We had to find some unique farm stays because some of the places you stop don't even have towns. So we need to make sure that you had food at night and lunch. So a lot of logistic and researching went into making sure this trip is epic, and it really is. So from Lake Jindabyne to really quiet roads on the Snowy Mountains Way. Some of the roads are unpaved. It's very, very pretty country. And then you come into Bega and, where a lot of cheese country, and then down into Tathra. And unfortunately, when we got there, it was pretty wet. We didn't have the super sunshine day to arrive, but that was okay. Some of the highlights, seeing platypuses or platyply, I think, in Bombala. That was really special. Just some of the big country sort of feel, staying in that the farm stay, um, and it just had so much appeal. This trip, it was epic. And I guess one of the things that I loved was the food. The oysters in Tathra. Pembala, just near Tathra, is one of the most famous places for oysters in Australia, so it definitely didn't disappoint there. We had some real farm to plate style food in some of the accommodation that we stayed at. But also, surprisingly, in Bombala, we had some of the best Chinese food that I've had, which that was a real surprise. So we always make sure on our trips that you have a comfortable bed at night, and it's a real highlight, the different styles of accommodation that you'll come across on our programs. So that was an epic one. And then the Capertee Valley cycle. I found out about the Capertee Valley quite a few years ago, and it dawned on me it's the second largest canyon in the world. I had to go and see it, and I wasn't going to drive it. I was going to cycle it. So I decided to research a trip that would take us all the way from Capertee, which is a town on the road to Mudgee, around through the Capertee Valley, and then up to Ralston, Candos, and then returning to Mudgee. So you actually start the trip in Mudgee with a night's accommodation, and then we transfer you down to Capertee to cycle all the way back to Mudgee where your car is, or where you can then get the bus for back to Sydney. So on this trip, we stay in really lovely boutique accommodation. There's quiet roads. There's bird life. The Capertee Valley is known for its bird life. So if you're a birder, then definitely have a look at this one. And also the vineyards of Mudgee and Ralston are amazing. But the Capertee Valley itself, it's just so beautiful. You start off at the roadhead and then you cycle down into the actual Capertee Valley. There's no towns per se in this valley, so you don't have big trucks or lots of traffic. It's just more local traffic that you'll see, and it's just an amazingly glorious place to cycle. I would rate it right up there. You also can do a side trip to Glen Davis, it used to be part of the old mining town that's now sort of closed down. So there's shops still there, but there's no shops that are functioning there. Just like it just got left. There is a few people that live in Glen Davis. It is a town, but there's no real facilities there. So you do need to take everything in. Occasionally there's a roadside cafe, but it doesn't always operate. So being quite self-sufficient. And then the first night's accommodation in the valley is in a beautiful B&B that's just magic, and you probably want to stay there an extra night. It's so lovely. And then you head on up to Candos and Ralston. Now, Ralston's got a great food scene. It's got one of the best Mexican restaurants you'll go to. It's got one of my favorite dumpling places. It's got the Naked Wine Vineyard and also the Debo Repairs Vineyard, which really is specific about the French method of producing wine, and it does a brilliant job. So all of these things can be visited on bike that next day. And then you cycle on to Mudgee, where again you can go to some beautiful vineyards. Mudgee itself is an old country town that's got so much charm and appeal. It's set on a lovely river, and it is one of the lovely places to go cycling, and there's some beautiful wetlands there as well to visit. All right, and just outside of Mudgee, you can do the Central West Trail, which we started in Mudgee, but it starts really, well, it does start in Mudgee, but it goes up to Gulgong and then does a loop through Dunedoo and down to Dubbo, and then back through Wellington and to Gulgong. And this we do as 4, 5, 7-day trips, supported or self-guided. It's on a gravel dirt roads most of the way, and it's got silo arts. It's got stops at a rural property for scones, jam and cream, which is always a treat. You get to see the town on the $10 note, although not many of us look at money these days, but they still pride themselves on that in Gulgong. And you can go to the zoo in Dubbo, one of the best zoos in Australia, all by bike, which is a terrific way to see true and authentic New South Wales country. And you stay in pubs most of the time, and these got a lot of charm and, really great earthy sort of atmosphere. And finally, another really epic ride is over 300 kilometres, this one. And that takes you along the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail, which is 160 kilometres. So from Walkaraka, you're going up through Esk to Linville and to Yarra, and that takes you to the end of the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail. Then you do a link trail that takes you all the way up to Kingaroy. And from Kingaroy, you join the Kilkivan Rail Trail, which takes you all the way up to Kilkivan. And that trip is 8 days, and it's moderate grade. The cycling is on a mixture of paved and gravel surface, and it's almost exclusively on dedicated rail trails. So a really good one if you're sort of venturing out for your first rail trail is probably the Brisbane Valley, but if you want to do a bit longer, then certainly the Brisbane Valley and Kilkeven Rail Trail is an epic ride.
I'll have a look at
This is
some
the
of.
end of the Mundabiddi cycle in Western Australia, which just highlights, yeah, there's always a reward at the end of a cycle day.
That's it. Yeah, beautiful. Nice time for a swim. Um, yeah, so we had an earlier question from Peg, which was about BYOB, bring your own bicycle, and what happens to the cost of the tour if it gets lower, or what's the
Yeah.
story there?
So if you do bring your own bicycle, you first of all need to make sure that it's well serviced and it's fit for the terrain that you're going on. But if that's all good, then definitely bring your own bike and we will give you a discount.
Perfect. Yeah. Obviously, it might be hard if you're traveling all the way across Australia. You might just want to use one of our bike hires, but yeah, that's up to you. Another question from Lisa. How much do the panniers hold?
That's a good question. I would say they hold, they're certainly enough to for you to have for your daily requirements. So definitely a waterproof jacket, your water, although that can also be on the bike. And if you've got a battery, it's good to carry that battery in there as well in case you need to. It's very unlikely that you'll need it during the day, but just in case. So it will also carry the lunch that you might need if there's no lunch stops on the way, and maybe even a bottle of wine.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. On lots of our tours, we do go to visit vineyards. So yes, you definitely want to place them in your panniers, probably not in your drink bottle holder because you'll need the water during the ride. Okay. Oh, we've got an eager beaver. Got a question from Sophie who's asking when to book for 2027.
Well, we do have some of our dates up, but the vast majority of them will be up very soon. Yeah. So whenever the dates are available, we're good to go.
Yeah, it's probably best to get in touch with the team and just say if the 2027 dates aren't available yet, just to put yourself on the wait list there,
Yeah.
so we can notify you when they are available. But yes, we like that. That's very forward planning, which is great. Um, Another one here. Say for any reason they're unable to complete the cycling leg, is it possible to get a taxi or how they get continued onto their final destination?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the trip that you're doing. So usually, I mean, we've always got someone that's transferring your luggage, and if they're licensed to carry passengers, then there's an option to join them with your bike. It just depends on um, the licensing requirements, which we can advise on specific trips. And and then otherwise there's an option, you could have a bus transfer or a taxi transfer as well. It just depends.
Yeah, yeah, play it by
But we've
ear.
always got someone, a local on hand that can help you. For example, on our Southern Highlands cycle, we've got Jeff who's very happy to transfer people um, if necessary.
Great. Got a question from Sid who's asking if we're able to transport e-bikes, for example, from Sydney to Western Australia. It's probably out of our scope a bit.
Yeah, it depends on yeah. Um, if we're able to transfer them or whether he can do that.
If we're,
Because so I, for example, have taken my e-bike from Sydney down to Melbourne on the train, but I had to box it up and put it in the luggage compartment. But yeah, the e-bike was able to be transferred down. If it's a e-bike that has a battery inside the shaft of the bike, you can't put them on an aeroplane, unfortunately. It's only bikes that you can take the battery off that you'll be able to put in an aeroplane. But it really depends on your bike and also the airline. But getting a train was a great option, I have to say.
Mm. Yeah, so I guess on that question, best to ask our team and see if we've got any knowledge, but we don't actually organise the transport
No,
of bikes across the
no,
country,
we
no.
don't. We don't.
Um, yeah, interesting one.
But we can
Um,
recommend, there's a lot of courier services that do it quite reasonably as well. So, yeah.
or you could just ride your bike from Sydney to Perth if you've got time on
Yeah,
your hands. Yeah,
that would be good.
another option. Um, one from Trevor, who's asking you, Kate, if you can peer into your crystal ball and do you have an idea of when the Great Victorian Rail Trail will reopen?
Yeah, it's so disappointing. We're very lucky in so many ways in Australia, but we do have from time to time things that affect our rail, our cycle infrastructure. We've had floods that have affected our Brisbane Valley in the past. We've had fires in other parts as well. Um, they're they're seeking help at the moment because it's too big for one council to foot the bill for getting the repairs done. So we're not expecting it to be opened for the springtime at this point, but we're still working with the council and maybe we could work with some fundraising as well because, yeah, they certainly need help in getting the cycle tourism back, which so many of the businesses rely on there.
Yeah, I'm sure they're definitely missing the tourism stream there for sure. So stay in touch, Trevor. As soon as it's opened, we'll be offering tools
We'll
on that,
be
that's for
announcing
sure.
it from the tops of the tree. Yes.
That's it. So just last couple of questions. If anyone's got any more, just please write in the bottom of your screen. Um, regarding car parking, uh, do we offer services where we can leave the car, like, yeah, do we offer car parking, I guess?
We always do provide recommendations of where to leave your car for sure, but most of the recommendations are not in guarded car parks. Um, so they're often in council car parks or by the street side. That tends to be fine. We haven't had any problems with our travellers and their cars having issues. So hopefully that continues to be the case. But there aren't a lot of secure car park facilities in the areas because simply they don't need them.
Awesome. And I think last question, and it's actually from me. Kate, what's your best advice regarding magpies?
Oh yeah. Well, September, it's not too far away. That's when they start coming out. And I think the best advice is to put the little spiky things on your helmet
Yeah,
and just be aware.
yeah, pedal really fast during them. Yeah,
Not too fast because you don't you don't want to have a crash because of a magpie, that's for
yeah.
sure.
I think you haven't
Yeah.
really ridden a bike in Australia until you've been kissed by a magpie either. So I think that's all part of the fun.
Well, and definitely always have sunglasses on.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. They've got to protect their territory. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining our webinar. I hope you've got a lot of information out of it. Kate, you've been fantastic. We're full of knowledge, sharing your experiences from your own cycling trips. Um, if you've got any other further questions, please ring up our Erin and Linda and the team at Australian Cycle Tours. But yeah, thank you so much. We'll hopefully
Thanks,
see you out on the
everyone.
trails.
Yeah, thanks.